Hey there, everybody. PTPOP here with all four lobes of my brain securely bound behind my back. And welcome to another episode of A Mind Revolution. On today's show, I'm going to be talking to two amazing artists. Today, I have Rafi Perez and Klee Angelie, who are from Oil City, Pennsylvania. They are award-winning fine artists and aspiring musicians. They create art, jewelry, play music, write books, and have a successful, they speak probably better than me. They have a successful YouTube channel, a fun podcast, and they are multifaceted artists. They are artists after my own heart. Rafi, Klee, welcome to PTPOP and Mind Revolution. Thanks for being on the show today. Can you hear me okay? There you are.
Okay, good.
Hi there.
Good. Hello.
Hi, so cool to meet you.
Well, cool to meet you. Let me turn off
thanks.
this. Okay. Now I'm good.
There you go. Yeah, I always I'm as much as I am into technology, for some reason, Zoom baffles me and I have to use it over and over again.
We do, we use Zoom on Sunday because we meet with artists and help them, whenever they have questions and stuff like that.
Sure.
And every single time I use it, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea.
It's really bizarre. Yeah. And I always have to come in a half an hour before I do a podcast to make sure I have it up and it's working and the cameras are on and everything else. So
well, let's get everything set up. Okay.
Cool.
Well, good to meet you.
Yeah.
It's I thoroughly enjoyed the documentary.
Oh, did you watch it? Did you get a chance to watch? Oh, good.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you would think of it because, I've been watching you guys for a little while now, and you're pretty accomplished as artists.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just started to call myself an artist. I finally had the courage to do it, but go ahead. I'm sorry. What did you think of the documentary?
I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed the interviews and the perspective. First off, I enjoyed the story aspect of it with your story heading in, and then having these interviews and showing these different, just different artists and what their approach was to doing it, to doing this whole artist thing. There was very little that I disagreed with, because that's how artists are. We each have our own journey. So for us, it's there were some things that I was like, I don't know if whatever. But then at the same time, it's you don't know until you've walked in that person's shoes on what it is exactly that works for them, for their perspective and moving forward. But altogether, I think that the documentary itself really, really showed an insight into that world, which I think is something that is missing a little bit. A lot of people, when they want to be artists, they have this airy-fairy idea of what it means to be an artist.
Yeah.
And in actuality, you're running a business. That's what you're doing. You are creating a product, right? If you want to call it a product, you're creating a product that no one needs, but everyone needs, It's one of those things. We were just talking this morning because I thought it was funny. I forget what we were looking. We were looking at something, and it was showing the 80s, what people believe the 80s was, and it shows an image of Michael Jackson posters and a Rubik's Cube table and all that stuff, and then it shows what the 80s were actually like, and it's a picture, a wooden wall with a cross hanging on it, and a picture of a child, in one of those glamour shots poses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And
go ahead.
And I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's funny because I don't remember much artwork hanging on walls in the 80s. No. And I think that the generation, it's funny because people go through that process. When you're a teenager, you tend to decorate and hang up your room and put things in there that have to do with self-expression, right?
Yeah.
Because you're this child living in somebody else's house. And so you want to create your space. And then I think something happens when after people go to school and then they go and get a job where they come home and instead of for a lot of people, instead of decorating their house in order to make it their space, a lot of people tend to decorate their house in order to impress people that come to their house, you know.
Yeah.
And
I
it
see what you
was
mean. Yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting because you back in that time, you know, you still had very self-expressive people, but I feel like self-expression is much more dominant now than it was. You know, people
Yeah.
are a little less afraid to break the mold and really embrace their own way of
Yeah.
expressing themselves in their homes and making their space comfortable for them versus being concerned whether or not like the table looks good or
Yeah.
how does how does this look with this, you know.
Well, it's funny because as I said in my movie, I had this fairy tale idea what it was being an artist. And, you know, I don't think I mentioned it in the film, but my mother, who I talk about, was an artist. I was a little kid and I asked her to show me how to do figure drawing. And I don't remember how old I was, probably a teenager. And she tried to show me some stuff and I got frustrated and I was like, oh, you know, I can't do this. And she's like, well, don't ask me again. She goes, go figure it out for yourself. Nobody showed me how to do it. And that was kind of an awful thing to say to a little kid. I've never been a parent, but and in retrospect, she was right because I don't know her training. I know she was trained, but to be an artist, you have to practice over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
Da Vinci struggled. All these big guys you think were, you know, I think Da Vinci was in prison for allegedly being a sodomist and all this weird stuff. And he struggled and he had, you know, all of these big guys had struggles. But for some reason, I had it in my head like, oh, I'm going to go to college. I went to higher university in Athens and I studied and the teachers really weren't showing me anything. And I'm like, well, I'm changing my degree. This sucks, you know. And I went to business, which was suicide because I'm not a corporate person. But yeah, I had this glamorized idea, and
it's so interesting because when you stop and you know, like people are like, oh, Picasso was you know, he's one of the more well-known artists from the turn of the century.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is that Picasso created a lot of work. He created a lot of work. The works that we know of Picasso is like a tiny, tiny, tiny little fraction of the work that he put out there. And a lot of it wasn't popular during his time, or it didn't become popular, and he was around for a long time. And that's the thing about Picasso that I wish when they talked about art history that they really, really would discuss more. It's like, dude started painting and putting himself out there from a very, very early age and did not and lived in poverty and still worked and put his stuff out there and figured out different ways of, you know, got together with our other artists, did little group shows here and there, got rejected by this gallery, got accepted by this one, and did a lot of like, you know, made friends because you make a lot of friends, right? You could probably think of anywhere between 3 to 10 people that you know right now that other people would consider, oh, they're wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. And so Picasso's thing was like he had these friends that were well off and he would throw parties at their houses. Anybody that was even a little bit more well off than him. And then it was poets and musicians and artists and stuff like that. And these creative people gathered together to put together events that other people would come to with the intention of, yes, selling the art, but more importantly, building the reputation. You know, like Picasso is you want to know about marketing. Picasso is you look at his entire life. Picasso's entire life has everything to do with branding and marketing, but it's doing it in a way where it's authentic and real and fun for an artist, right? Not all this bullshit marketing courses out there that are like, you got to have this kind of list and you got to do this and make sure that you make sure that you spend at least an hour a day on social media. I'm like, exactly. I don't have an hour a day to sit on social media and post stuff and things like that. I just don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm running a full art business. And Klee and I are not only running an art business, we also, we have art, we have jewelry, we have music, it's multifaceted. And I think a lot of that was inspired by the great masters, because the fantasy that they started creating their art at an early age. They went to college and then everything worked out beautifully. It's like,
exactly.
that's bullshit. That's not, that's not even close. The ones that stuck, the ones that we know about are the ones that persisted. Salvador Dali, artist forever, went to school, and you hear all these stories, hindsight, but you don't know that he was broke for the majority of it. It was when he was older that he became Salvador Dali. It's like, and you hear about how much he sold, the famous painting with the clock and the egg, and how much he sold that for. And it's like, it wasn't that much. He didn't sell it for that much, considering how iconic
and
his
how popular
work
it is now. That particular piece with the melting clock, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or Da Vinci. The Mona Lisa wasn't famous. The Mona Lisa was not at all famous until it was stolen. It was after the Mona Lisa got stolen, and it was coming out in the press, in the United States, in the press in the United States, as the most famous painting ever was stolen from this. It was great marketing and publicity, but it was really, the headlines of the day. Headlines are big. It's not going to say a painting got stolen from the museum. It's going to say the most popular, most famous, most expensive painting is the one that sold. The thing that got stolen, the thing that sold at auction, it's the most expensive painting to date. Those are the things that come out in the news, because those are the things that, the headlines that turn eyes and cause people to look at it. And so nobody knew who the hell Da Vinci was until the Mona Lisa was stolen. And that's the thing. Like, sure, art historians might have known who Da Vinci was, but what was he doing? He was a planner. He was an architect. He never finished any of the paintings that he started. For a long time, Da Vinci had to, what he did was he painted people that were being hung on death row in order to make some money. Dude was almost always broke and could never sell anything. And that's why he started creating military plans for like devices and things like that, flying machines and stuff like that, because he was trying to get, he was trying to approach governments to do so, to basically fund him for the projects that he was working on. But also at the same time, he didn't have any status. So he was highly insecure because he was a bastard child, So it's like all of this, when you really, really dig into, that's my favorite part, right? It's not like who inspires you, like this artist and their artwork. That doesn't. I love investigating the lives of these artists and seeing.
I wish I'd met you 3 years ago. Maybe you could work with me on that documentary, because I needed someone like you with that passion for the same thing I was trying to find, because I don't think my film said what I wanted to, because I couldn't get people to come out on camera and say, I'm flat. Well, they said it in a roundabout way. Like, I'm flat out broke. I'm working a second job and I'm living with my mom. Right. I'm 55 years old. So I think that's awesome that you see that. I'd love to, maybe we can collaborate on a documentary together, but that's cool that you see that, because I don't get other artists to admit any of this. They don't talk about it. They don't. And if you've noticed, by the way, we already started recording and stuff.
Okay.
So I pre-record an intro and I cut it in later, and I introduced it as you and Klee. Is Klee joining us today?
Yes, if you don't mind. Klee wasn't sure. She didn't want to intrude.
Yeah. I mean, you're a duo, aren't you?
Yes, we are. Let me call Klee. Hey, Klee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Hi, Klee. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining.
Of course.
On the show.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
How do we both sound? Do we both sound clear and good?
Yeah, you sound great. You sound really good.
Awesome.
It's funny because I I have a studio separate from my house. I'm moving out of it, but I had a bunch of hardware down there. I have a Rodecaster Pro and I have a ATM Mini Pro for video production, and I haven't used it in months. So last night I got it home and I'm plugging it in. I can't remember how to use this stuff. So I'm got all these cables and headphones and microphones, and I'm like, I have to watch these YouTube videos all over again to figure out how to use it again. But
I feel like that's how it is. That's why we will always push YouTube University, because I'm like, listen,
yeah,
you're going to forget stuff, and right at the click of a button, you've got the information that you need. How amazing is that?
Not to mention stuff changes, and like sometimes you open up a thing and you're like, this is not what I remember at all.
Oh yeah, and I think that the internet is fascinating because years ago when I was studying art in college, I got bored because it was all, I don't know how old you guys are, but when I was in graphic design, it was all done with Rapidograph pens and X-Acto knives and color aid paper, and I was like, this is so tedious. And then fast forward to 2007, and I find Illustrator and InDesign. I'm like, this is my speed. I can do it. I can hit an undo button, and I fell in love with it all over again because it was digital. I didn't feel like I was too ADD to deal with the manual processes. So
I mean, that's how I feel, and that's one of the things that I think that there is this allure, and I'm not saying that some artists aren't like this, but I think that there's this idea that every artist is the same, right? That they struggle for their craft, and that is true to a certain extent. But then you have Klee, who's very fastidious and very organized and very much like, she likes the tediousness. And then you have people like me that a lot of my style when it comes to paintings is developed from the fact that I hate tediousness.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got a very loose, very free style that's not constricted.
I will say too, while I am fastidious and I don't mind tediousness, I also won't introduce it where it doesn't need to be. So like working with a digital audio workstation has changed the way that I write music, and it's made it easier to produce compositions. And I wouldn't trade that ability for anything, to, putting an ad in the paper like bassist wanted or drummer wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think definitely to cut the fluff in the workflow where you can, and only be tedious where you enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
well,
that's a good point.
I discovered you guys. I don't remember how I found you, but the chemistry between the two of you is just amazing.
Thank you.
You have this great, I guess you call it warmth and charisma, and it's like you found this true love or something. So it's like it's
true.
inspiring to
Thank
see.
you.
Yeah, because I think that was the first thing that I really liked about your shows on YouTube, was just the chemistry and your enthusiasm and your positiveness. Plus, you're in Oil City, which my mom's side of the family, I think my grandfather is from Oil City.
Okay.
Somebody way back when found the first oil well in Oil City or something like that.
The Drake well?
I can't, don't quote me on it because
we're still learning too.
Mom told me all these stories, and she's passed away a long time ago, and I didn't listen to her because I was whatever. I'm like, I wish she was around so I knew about this, but I haven't heard of Oil City since I was a kid, and I'm like, wow, how did these guys find? You're from Pensacola, right?
We're from Chicago.
We're originally from Chicago, and we lived in. So we left Chicago in 2009, and we traveled the country for about 2 years and lived out of the back of a Ford Explorer. And then we landed in Pensacola. My dad was having open heart surgery, and he lives there. And we stayed there to help him through recovery, but then also started our...
We kind of accidentally launched our art career in Pensacola, and then it was enticing to stay, so we stayed for a decade.
Wow. How did you guys meet?
It's quite a story, but it's full of serendipitous occurrences.
Really?
I really do feel star-crossed with Rafi. Like the forces that be put us together.
Yeah.
And we both kind of just knew it. But the very first time we saw each other was at a concert that my band was performing. Rafi's brother was going because he's also a musician, and he twisted Rafi's arm to go because there was this girl that he wanted Rafi to see, because Richard was smitten with her. She was the other girl in my band.
Oh,
yeah.
And there was a handshake that evening.
Excuse me.
And and then I didn't see him for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And the thing was that, like, so at that point, I'm married. I'm not with, I'm with somebody that, one of those situations where in life, I think that one of the reasons that I'm so the way that I am in my videos is because I worked in the corporate world. I did what I was told. I got married. The whole idea of happiness of, you have this, you have 2 cars, you've got, 4.5 kids, and the whole 9 yards, right? And so her and I didn't really like each other, but that was kind of the way that it was, right? You're married, you don't like the person you're with, that's normal. Everybody else that pretends like they're happy, that's all fake, right? Because everybody has problems, and that was my mentality back then. So we go, my brother twists my arm, and I'm like, fine, let's go. And we go, and I watch them up on stage, and even then there was something super interesting. I remember thinking to myself, there is something really, really intriguing about this girl up on stage, and I don't know what it is. So like afterwards, because I've seen a lot of concerts and stuff, and it was never like, I'm not one of those people that like sees a girl on stage is like, oh my God, she's so hot. It was just, but there was something super intriguing about Klee. And so after the show, I was like, I asked Richard, I was like, hey, I'd really like to say hi and let her know. I'd like to meet her. And nothing like lewd or anything, like just like, I'd like to meet her. And so my first time meeting her, she stepped out. She looked really nervous, really scared. And I was like, hey, the typical thing that you say when you watch somebody on stage, you're like, hey, good show. And so like we shook hands, and then she disappeared, and then I disappeared, and that was it. That was our very, very first time meeting.
I was painfully shy. My MO after a show is like, I pack up my gear and I'm out. I've disappeared from the scene. I was nervous to meet people. And Richard had never attempted to introduce me to anyone before. So I was like, what is happening here?
It's funny because I'm a musician too. And I played until COVID. I played out every summer. I had gigs, but I didn't have stage fright. But I just dreaded it for some reason. I would get up there and I'd be like, oh, do I have to talk to these strangers? People come up, can you play Sweet Home Alabama? I'm like, no, dude, I don't play that. I can't say that, but I don't want to play this shit. And I'd get all freaked out and I'd forget the lyrics. And my wife is always like, don't worry, you sounded fine. I'm like, and that is anyway. But so I kind of know what that's like, that anxiety of performing and being a musician.
Yeah, the nerves. I had the fortunate position of I was not the one who had to talk between songs. The other girl was the talker, and she loved it. So I didn't have to do that, and I didn't really have to interact.
Oh, good.
And I definitely, before every show, at least for the first 2 years, I prayed for a natural disaster to cancel the show. Just anything.
Rain, anything. And,
I remember just hoping, my very first show, just hoping, because it was an outside show and it was out in the boonies at like some festival, Battle of the Bands thing. And I was like, this is tornado season in the Midwest. Like, come on. Let's do this.
Even a tornado, huh? Wow.
Yeah. And then, eventually you get kind of used to it, but I that anxiety never really goes away. It's just different degrees of it. I
remember when you first started showing your art.
Oh my gosh.
People would walk in and I would tell her, like, just say hi. That's all you got to do is say hi.
And I couldn't do it because I didn't want people to feel like I was being pushy. Like, look at my art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I realized, well, people are going to feel about you however they do, regardless of what you say. And I've said hello to people and had them say, I'm just looking, in response. And me be like, cool, you get zero pressure from me. But having to like learn that through experience, not feel bad about like being there, existing with my art.
And that's the thing, like 10 years, over a decade of putting yourself out there and doing all these shows. For me, I've always been, I was in corporate training. So like I could speak in front of a big group of people. You throw a guitar in my hands and my knees give out.
Oh yeah.
It's the funniest thing. So even and then there's a whole other degree of stuff when you're putting your artwork out there that like now what's going to happen? What if somebody comes in and asks you about your art? Or am I being too pushy? Am I lingering? Am I staring too long? You really, really get inside of your head and it gets really weird. But after doing it, Klee has a saying, the best way to get over a thing is to do the thing.
The therapy for fear of a thing is to do the thing.
Yeah. And so for all those, because I know a big thing for a lot of artists is that your introvertness keeps you from being big, right? And then you justify your introvertness by saying, well, that's just how I am, right? Because the reality for anybody that wants to sell art is you got to put it out there. You got to put it out there. You got to be in front of people. You got to make sure that everyone that meets you knows that you are an artist. This is what you do, and I've thought about that a lot over the years because, I came from that perspective back then in that life that I was living where it was like, there's some kind of secret formula to doing this, right? Right. You got to know the right people. You got to all these things that you hear, right? The right gallery has to pick you up. The right, basically the entire secret to being an artist was waiting around for someone to discover you so that then you could finally make it big. And, and you have to make sure that you jump through all the right hoops in order to get there. Little by little over the years of us putting ourselves out there, it's like I went through and ignored everything that I thought was a requirement for putting for becoming an artist. First off, I started at the flea market. That's not what you do when you're an artist, right? Second off, I started with what I had. I didn't have anything.
You mean selling at a flea market?
Oh yeah. Because we got to Pensacola, we approached a gallery and they were like, they turned their noses up at us because
they were like, who are you?
Who are you? We just
you mentioned the snobbiness.
Because
my mom, as I mentioned, was an art snob, and she'd see someone's work and she'd go, "Oh, they don't know what they're doing." And so go ahead, sorry, but yeah,
and but it was like this thing. So we get there, and I'm like, the artist side of me is like, "Oh, I'm never gonna make it," but then the business side of me was like, "Well, so you got the roadblock. What are you gonna do now?" And it was like, okay, well, I could rent a table at the flea market and sell whatever the hell I want. So that's the best way for me to get my artwork in front of people right now. And I think that that's the thing. It's like from there, it grew to like, all right, now there's the farmer's market. Oh, okay, there's this art walk that's happening at this, once a month. And there's this gallery night that happens once a month. And there are these different things that happen. But none of that stuff, we wouldn't have found out about any of that stuff unless we actually started putting ourselves out there and really engaging and showing people. Not only that, but, a lot of times they're like, make sure that you have a nice sized body of work before you try and do this thing. I didn't.
Yeah.
I had like 4 pieces that I created, and then I'd work on stuff while I was there and I created stuff. And then I think the first time that we had gallery night, I spent the entire week, working into, it was like, so we were staying with my dad, and my dad is a hoarder. So I had a little corner of the garage in Florida, and we called it Dirt Pit Studios, because I basically would like lay the artwork out on the ground outside.
Oh, wow.
While I was working on stuff. And, it was one of those things. Okay, we have a booth, we have these walls. How much artwork do I want to bring out? 20 pieces. All right, well, I better get to work this week and get 20 pieces done for the show, and there was no shortage, because that's the other side of it. There's no shortage of what you want to create, because you've spent a lifetime. For me personally, I spent a lifetime not creating the things that I wanted to create, because you always want to get it, I'm going to show my body of work. Every piece has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. And the problem with that is that perfect and good enough are the same exact thing, except they're wearing different coats, right? So when something is good enough, you look at it and you say, you know what, good enough. That means that it's pretty much perfect for you. Everything is always going to need some kind of improvement. Everything, you could improve on everything. So when you get it to good enough, that to me means that's perfect now. Put it out there. This is good enough. That's perfect now. For what it is right now, that's perfect. Put it out there. And so I think because we just kind of jumped in with both feet, that was the perspective that I had. And, you have more experiences. You put yourself out there, and like, there's a piece that I'm like, I don't know, it kind of like, I did this shadow thing on wood. It's black and white. Like, nobody's going to buy this shit. I like it. You're going through the stuff. Like, I like it. I think it's kind of cool, but like, it doesn't look like whatever. And then we go to the market, and it's the first damn piece that I sell, and like, and that was where I got into an understanding that like, there might be people out there that turn their nose and it's like, oh, well, that's not good art, but that doesn't quantify everyone. And most likely, if someone is saying, well, that's not any good, either A, it means it's not their taste. They don't like it. It doesn't mean that it's not good. It just means that's not their taste. Or B, they themselves are an artist and they're super insecure about their own craft. And so they will tend to be the ones that point at somebody else's work. And it's like, well, that's not good stuff,
Yeah, exactly. And have you ever run into a point in your creative lives, either one of you, where you were younger artists and you were jealous of the other artists, and you would be like, oh, I'll never be as good as so-and-so?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it's kind of a rite of passage for a beginning artist, a fledgling artist, to feel that sense of comparison and envy and a little bit of despair, even possibly like, why am I even doing this? I'm never going to attain this level. And I was hugely of that mindset even before the jewelry career with music. I mean, gosh, music has just been my greatest passion and my greatest torment. And, and obviously, like when you're publicly an amateur and you're building your skill set for everyone to see, it's like you kind of have to go through those stages until you build your own self-confidence and you get to a place where you're happy with what you're doing. I wish I could go back and tell my past self to just be happy with what I was doing.
Yes. Yeah.
But and that's why I say, I guess it is kind of a rite of passage, right? Because we all sort of go through that.
It is a rite of passage. Yeah. I think, unfortunately, some people don't. They allow it to destroy their dreams, right?
Yes.
And those are the people that get stuck there, where they're like, oh, they'll be like, I'm drawing hands, right? Hands is one of those things that like there are a number of artists out there that are like, hands suck, so drawing hands, right?
Yep.
And they're like, well, I can't draw hands as well as this person, so why even try? And they get to that place and they're doing that comparison game. The truth is that if you spend 30 days every day for about an hour, you just sketch hands and you just practice different hands and you do it just 30 days, you'll be amazing.
Yeah.
At sketching and drawing hands.
Yeah.
Like It's not it. And that's the thing, that when it comes to art, is that it's not that complicated to learn techniques and tips and skills that are going to help you improve your craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get all up in art, like photorealistic. Oh, photorealistic is hard. Photorealistic is a series of techniques that you follow. It's a bunch of tips and cheats and things like that that get you to a place where you're mixing your paints and you're blending your paints and you're using the materials in order to make the thing look as photoreal. It's math, basically. You know, you're dealing with math, right? And for a lot of people, they'll see something that is photorealistic and or have some kind of components like that to it, and then say, well, my art's not as good. We all go through that. We all go through that period. It's getting to the place where you realize that person has been doing that for years.
Yeah.
That's all they've been doing. This is what they've been studying. Even if they've only been the vast amount of improvement that you have in trying something like that for just a year, you could, if you made it your mission by the end of the year, I am going to do photorealistic paintings. You can. It doesn't matter what your skill level is. The fact is that you will get there, right? By the end of the year, it will take 1 year and basically your paintings are, but that's because that's what that person does. That's what they're practicing.
Exactly.
And even still, they're looking at their art and they're seeing all the imperfections and all the stuff that they could improve. And I think that at some point in my career, I realized early on, thank God, because that was another thing too. It was like you sit there and you're looking at somebody else's art and it's almost like, why even bother?
Yeah.
But I got to a place where I realized, like, it doesn't matter what I create as long as I'm excited about it.
Yes.
That's really all that matters, because I've seen people, you know, I've had artists set up across from us that have some amazing and gorgeous paintings, right? Where maybe I'm having the, you know, because you have those moments where you like look over and you're like, holy shit, that's gorgeous. And then you look over at your wall and you're like, my stuff looks like shit. Like, you know, here's the context, you know?
Well, do you ever, like, I heard you mention one of your videos that at one point you were just making art because you're trying to figure out what people would buy. And I ran into that where I'm like, oh no, nobody's buying my stuff, so I better go make photographs that everybody likes. So I started working with more kind of like risque models and stuff, and that would sell, but I don't really want to be known for the risque photographer, you know, shtick. That was very early on for me, and it was very short-lived, right? Because
we were living in a touristy area.
We were living in a tourist, and people
were like, do the beach scenes, do the sea oats, do the Pensacola beach ball. If you want to earn a living, this is what you do. And for me, it was like, just do pearls on leather, do pearls on whatever, pearls.
Those are the things that are popular in this area. That's the stuff that people are buying. And so I think I tried it. To be honest with you, I only tried it for like a couple weeks, because like I was sitting there, I was painting it. And after about 2 weeks, I was like, this sucks. And I think my perspective, because I left the corporate world, was like, if I'm going to turn this thing that I love into a job, for that, I might as well just go and work in the corporate world.
Exactly.
Why would I do that? At least there I could leave that job at the door and walk home. Being an artist, this isn't a full-time job. This is a lifestyle. Like, I'm going to be living this, and basically I'm going to pour all this time and energy into these paintings or this work that I'm just creating for the sake of selling because it's popular. And then 5 years from now, where am I going to be? This is going to be the business that I've built. You know, like and I got to a place where I was like, it may take longer for me to sell my work, the stuff that I love, for my people to find it, but it's going to be much more worth it, because then I'm not going to be pigeonholed into a position in the future that I'm going to regret being in. So it was very much, I think right from the beginning, a lot of our decisions were based on future thinking, right? Sure, this is going to be easy now, but
is it sustainable?
Is it sustainable? Is this what I want to be in the future? Like,
so is it, do you both do this full time, or do you have day jobs?
We are both full-time. We have been since the beginning of our art career journey.
Wow.
Our story is a little extreme, right? So we left pretty much everything behind in Illinois, lived in a truck. So we removed rent,
bills,
utility bills,
everything.
We were basically, we got it down to the most basic expenses, a cell phone, vehicle insurance, gas, right? So right off the bat, we didn't need that much to get by. And so we were willing to go to that extreme to see, can we do this?
Yeah.
I don't recommend that for everybody.
No.
Have you seen the YouTube channel Cheap RV Living, where people
I
live
think,
out of
I think we've seen
Santa Claus.
Yeah.
People live out of Ford Explorers and
yeah.
I know. Well, we were doing it before it became popular.
Yeah. So before van life,
before
it became
like, van life.
So you guys are intentionally homeless?
Yeah.
Like that's your stick?
That's pretty amazing.
I will say that even to this day, so it's been 14 years since we had a quote unquote real job.
Wow.
I would not knock it. Like if a situation came up where one of us had to get a job, right? There's no shame in that.
No.
Like you do what you have to do in this art life.
Yeah.
It's just worked out for us that it's worked out for us.
Yeah. And I think behind that, because like, so that's the worst case scenario, but I am more of the mindset where it's like, I have burned my bridges. I would rather burn everything to the ground and start new, on the street. I don't care. You don't
want to go back to the corporate thing, is that what you're saying?
Because I'm not going to, I will rather get rid of every single bill that I have and every single responsibility than to go back and whatever. And that's the thing. Like if I need to, and that was the extreme. We went the extreme route, for somebody to do that, like you have to really, really know that this is what you want. For me, it was a point where I had reached where I was like, life is too short to go on thinking, oh, I wish I would have, or I wish I could, or I wish I whatever. And, it also helped that like, then I got, before I met Klee and before I made this decision, my life fell apart. I went through a divorce. I was losing the house. I lost my job. I quit my job, then went through a divorce, then was losing the house. Then both of my cars broke down within a week.
Wow.
And
sounds like a good song.
It was pretty amazing. So, and after going through maybe like a week of like, woe is me, I don't know what to do, the reality hit me that all the things that I was holding, basically doing a job and doing all these things in order to hold this whole thing together that I didn't want in the first place, had fallen away.
Yeah.
And so it was almost for me like, no pun intended, like a blank canvas, like, okay, you know what? This is and because of that, people thought I lost my mind. So I totally embraced that. I was like, fine, I've lost my mind. Like, I'm just gonna, oh, you're going to live in your car, and then we meet. And we had, like we said in the story earlier, we had met like years earlier, but now I'm divorced and stuff. And she comes over to the house and we're sitting across from each other at a bonfire.
So this is 5 years later though, right?
5 years later.
So how did you
Richard,
go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm sorry. His brother, Richard, ended up getting into a serious relationship with the other girl in my band.
Okay.
And so then they moved in together. I was still connected to her. She's like a sister to me. So it's kind of like two brothers and two sisters.
Yeah.
So I went over there to see her, and Rafi was staying with Richard at the time following his divorce.
Yeah, my brother was like, "Hey, if you want to move in," I was like, "I don't care, dude. I could live in my car or whatever." He's like, "No,
Yeah.
why don't you move? Why don't you move in?"
Yeah.
So I went to say hello and goodbye actually to her because I was in another band by that time, and we were getting ready to do this big 3-month self-funded musical tour. And it was 4th of July weekend. I think it was holiday weekend. They were doing the bonfire party thing. And I thought, well, I'll just go over there. And then this guy was actually holed up in his like back room, writing.
I was writing.
And
and
wasn't even going to come out.
No, I wasn't going to come out. And then Amber was like, "Why don't you come out for a little bit and hang out with us?" And I was like, ugh. That whole thing.
Party.
Like, I'm in my creative zone. I'm like, I don't want to party. And I was like, fine, I'll go outside. So I sat there, and Klee was there, and that recognition hits like, holy shit, this is Klee.
Person.
You're that person. And I remembered that feeling. So we engaged in a conversation, and it was one of those moments where like it just felt like everyone else was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just Klee and I back and forth. And then she left on her trip and was gone for another 3 months. And then one night, months later, Amber is doing a show. She's part of a different band. And my brother's like, hey, they need, because like with bands, like you want to get people into the tickets through the door. Or like
we need bodies in the establishment.
Yeah.
We need the head count.
Yeah.
So
the head count. Yeah. So like, Amber and my brother were like pulling everybody that they knew. So it was like my mom and family and all that stuff. And Rich was like, "Hey, are you coming out?" And I was like, "I don't know, dude. I'm busy with a project." And he was like, "Come on, so I was like, "Fine, let me go." And I go, and I'm there, and like, not that there's anything wrong with people, but there was a lot of like really drunk, insecure people there. And I was like, I don't
drunk and insecure.
Yeah, drunk and insecure.
I've heard drunk and disorderly, but drunk.
Yeah, no, it was more along the lines of drunk and insecure, and a lot of like inappropriate people hitting on me. And I was like, I
gotcha.
I think it's time for me to leave. And
I was simultaneously drawing the same conclusion.
I hadn't seen Klee.
I was in the ladies' room, and there were 2 very inebriated girls in there that had clearly just turned 21, and they were like, "You're older and wiser, and we have this drama that's going on here." And I was like, "I'm out." So I was making a beeline for the door, and it was like the sea parted.
It sounds
with Rafi.
Whether or not it's my memory or that's how it happened, I literally remember the crowd of people partying.
Seriously.
And we were looking
there
at each
was
other.
Klee, and we were looking right at each other.
So I walked right over to him, and I was like, "It's you again." And it was all these little instances of like calling my friend's phone, but getting him instead because he was there, and running into him there, and so I think at that moment when the sea of people parted and I went to him, I was like, there is something.
Yeah.
This is something.
Well, I tell you, I mean, the chemistry, as I said at the beginning, between the two of you is just amazing. And the joy and the happiness that you exude in your everything you do. I mean, I've listened to your music. I just discovered your music last night, and I heard song. I just heard your song, "I Fold My Underwear." That's your song, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That is an awesome. I mean, I just am sitting here laughing my ass off. And the audio production quality on it, did you go to a professional studio to do that, or did you do that at home?
No, we did that.
Here.
That was a great recording. Just
thank
awesome.
you. My mom, who has followed my musical journey for the last 20 years, said to me, because Fools is the first song to come out of this musical studio with this equipment.
The new studio.
I'm going to put some of your stuff up here while you're talking so we can show people what you guys do.
So my mom said to me when she heard Fools, I Fold My Underwear, she said, "Klee, this is a real song." And I knew what she meant. She meant the production quality was like, beyond what she thought I was doing.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
And that's a huge, and I said, thank you, because that's a huge compliment. And, we we slogged our way through mixing and mastering, and I really wasn't going to settle for anything less than what I wanted to hear. And that's kind of where I'm at now. With our first album, we recorded it in a kitchen with a tiny interface with bad acoustics, and it just was what it was. And even then we were like, okay, let's remaster this and put it out there. What the heck?
Yeah.
And then, you just try to get better at all the aspects as you go.
Well, let me show some people some stuff here, though. If you want to see Rafi and Klee's work, go to rafiandklee.com. And you're also on YouTube. You've got Rafi was here.
Right.
And this is the music video. There's this great song that they perform called Fools. I Unfold My Underwear. Is that right? Or is it just called I Unfold My Underwear?
It's all of it. And it's whatever part of it.
Okay.
The full official title is Fools, I Fold My Underwear, which is a heck of a long song title. But
I just was blown away because, as a musician, I'm a bit of a snob, and I usually hear other people's stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good. And I'm like, okay, what time is, reruns of MASH start?
I get that.
And I heard your stuff and I'm like, wow, this is really not bad. This is good.
Thank you.
And the recording quality was great. So I figured you must have gone to a professional studio, but you did it there in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. Your music and you guys have books.
Yes.
So I'm trying to find here. Can you see what I'm showing everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not live. I'll edit this down, but you've got, now this is awesome. You guys are marketing machines. I mean, you've got, your website is well put together. Did you design the website?
That's all this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Maybe I can hire you because I've got this Wix website and it looks like crap. And anyway, but you do some great stuff here. You've got books, which is a great idea to try to help other artists.
Oh, yeah.
Get their feet on the ground or get running. And you've got books about marketing.
It's the survival guide, it's the money guide, and the marketing guide. And it was the idea there was to promote, to have concise, because we have on our Rafi Was Here channel, we have about 500 videos of stuff that we talk about. And the way that we do the videos is like whenever there's a question or a comment, or if Klee and I are having a conversation or we have an experience that I'm like, oh, I want to capture this, what I learned in this process, then a video comes from that. And I realized that I have always wanted to write a book. And, the beauty of what we do is that I have always wanted to be a writer. I've always wanted to be an author. I've also wanted to be a musician. And I've also wanted to be a filmmaker.
Wow. You sure we're not related?
So here I am. I've got books. We've got videos on YouTube, music videos. We have music and art. And, this is what we do for a living, and feel quite blessed to be able to do it, but also understand that like this is all to be honest with you, if there's any secret to what we've done, it's understanding that like it's gonna suck really bad. It's gonna suck. You're gonna have to get really comfortable being uncomfortable. You want to make sure that you set yourself up to be able to succeed and think long term, right? Everybody wants to become famous right now. They want to just become insta famous. They want to create 10 works of art and put them out there and sell them all, right? And become known and all that stuff. And it's like, whenever I think of that stuff, I'm like, listen, in the decade that we've been doing this, I've created over 1,000 to 2,000 works, and I've sold a lot of those, but Some of those were works that were sold for $25. Some of them are works that sold for $2,000. Some of them are works that sold for $100. Like it's one of those things where you really determine for yourself, like, what is it that I want? Do I want to jump through hoops, or am I going to really understand that, like, I can't let lack of money be the thing that quantifies whether I'm successful or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want money. We want to make money.
Money's great.
This is what we do for a living.
Yeah.
We want to pay our bills.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you know, where we are now, living now, we would not be able to afford the first 5 years that we were doing this, the first 6 years that we were doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not.
You know, but slowly but surely over the years, we started to create, you know, gather up collectors and people there. We've got a lot of people from Pensacola, but also a lot of people worldwide that know who we are, that trust us in what we do and love what we do. And that's essentially, as an artist, what you do. You put your artwork out there a lot, as much as you can. Put it out there so that basically putting your artwork out there is like saying hello, right? Somebody turning and looking at the artwork and be like turning and looking at you and thinking right off the bat, like, oh, I think I might like this person, right? And then they say hello back. That's it. That's what putting your artwork out there is. It's not put your artwork out there and you'll sell it. No, putting your artwork out there is letting people know that you exist, right? And then your people find you, they say hello back, and then you build a relationship with them. Because
you have to network. You have to
network. You have to build that relationship with them because people buy art from people that they like. That's the truth.
Did both of you study art in college, or?
No, I dropped out of college.
Okay, because
I took a few art classes.
They don't teach you this stuff in college. Well, I haven't been in real school for almost 40 years now, but back then it was just these weird professors, and they kind of walk in the room, show you a couple of things, walk out and have a cigarette, and
it's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of, you know, unfortunately, when it comes to the educational system, you are allowed to teach art without having any real world experience as an artist, you know, and
skilled. I never saw any of my professors and never saw any of their work.
Exactly, because
I don't know if they could draw.
Because a lot of them are not working artists, and that's the thing. I am fascinated by that because in my mind, I'm like, listen, it should be the same thing as medical school. This person needs to go out there. They need to, before they are able to get a degree where they're able to teach. You're not going to just give a books degree to a medical doctor, a medical professor. This professor has to be a working doctor in order to be able to teach that kind of thing, right? It's not just book smarts. And unfortunately, when it comes to the arts, any kind of arts, right? You could get that degree and then you have the ability to teach, but you don't have any real world experience of putting yourself out there, falling on your face and failing. Yeah. You know, and that's, I would say, and it's not every teacher. There are plenty of professors out there that this is what they do for a living, and they are fantastic professors, but unfortunately, it's not the requisite across the board. And so that was one of the things that I early on, I think one of my art teachers, I'd always done well in school, and in junior year, I was applying for a scholarship for art school, and junior year was the only year ever that one of my art professors just hated me for whatever reason, hated everything I did. And the fact of the matter was that, like, I knew, you know, I was also a little bit arrogant because I was like, listen, I know what I'm doing. Like, I don't need you to come in and tell me that I'm doing it the wrong way. This is how I do it. Like, it's art. You know, don't tell me how to sketch. Like, I know how to sketch. And so I did this whole thing in the class where I was like, all right, fine. You're telling me that this isn't going to work. I guarantee you I could sketch that person right now. And so it became this, so he said, all right, we'll go ahead and do it. So I sketched that person and then showed the class, and everybody in the class applauded. And from that moment on, he hated me. And it was the only art class that I'd ever failed. And it happened to be junior year.
Wow.
Bad time to have a...
Yeah, junior year, that's bad. Hold you back, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. So my scholarship was blown.
Oh.
Now, here's the issue with that is that, unfortunately, I wasn't who I am now. Who I am now would be like, fuck it. Who cares? I'm just going to keep going. Who I was back then, all of a sudden, my art teacher just became one more person, like my unsupportive father and my art teacher and the world and the art world. And everybody's holding me down. And so, which is why I got into corporate, because, the other path just seems so impossible.
But, flash forward however many years, and this is the reason that Rafi Was Here channel exists and why there are books and why he puts so much out there, was because the original conversation between us from him was like, no one's talking about this stuff. And this is the stuff that I wish was available to me when I thought an art career was impossible. I don't need someone to teach me how to paint. I need someone to teach me how the hell to run an art business, how you get through financially lean times, how you deal with imposter syndrome, how you face rejection. Like, nobody wants to talk about that, but these are the things that are so important to talk about. And now people are starting to talk about the fact that we should talk about these things.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, because it's like I said in my film, everyone's got these preconceived notions what it is to be an artist, and it's nothing like the world thinks we're just running around fields of daisies,
totally
chasing butterflies or something, and it's a lot of work. And but the beauty of it is, like Rafi had said, if you work at it and keep working at it, you evolve and you get better, and you become comfortable within your own skin. You're no longer, I got to a place like when I was learning to play guitar, I wanted to play like Eddie Van Halen. Till I found out I couldn't play like Eddie Van Halen, and there's only one Eddie Van Halen, and why do we need another one? So I just started to do my own thing. And people are like, why can't you play like Eddie Van Halen? I'm like, I don't like playing like that. I just do what I do. If that makes sense. Like you just paint what you paint. You do your jewelry like you do your jewelry.
Yeah. I make jewelry that I want to wear, and I write songs that I want to hear on the radio.
Yeah. And your kinetic jewelry that's an awesome idea that it moves.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm really into those, the kind of jewelry that has features that allow you to connect with it in more than just an adornment kind of way. Really, that's what's lighting my fire these days, is that.
It's funny. It's awesome that you can play with it or fiddle with it when, because we all play with our jewelry and stuff.
It's funny that you were saying that about one of my biggest things right now is I'm working through the insecurity of guitar. Like, I picked up the guitar when Klee and I met, and, played a lot for that first year when we recorded that first album, then started the art career, and didn't really play over the last few years, but I know how to play our songs. And there was a lot of insecurity attached to that, because it's like people are going to come up to you, oh, do you know this song? It's like, no, I don't. And I remember when we were on our travels, we met the guitarist for the B-52s.
Oh, wow.
And he was at a party, and, somebody that was there, the host, had told him, like, yeah, they have a band and they play music. And he was like, oh, cool, I'd love to hear your music. And, my insecurity flared up, and I was like, well, just so you know, like, I only know how to play our songs, the songs that we've written. And he looked at me, he's like, what songs do you think I know how to play?
Did he say that? Did he say that? Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I said, I only can play our songs. Like, I
only can play our songs. I don't play anything else. Yeah. And like that right there was like one of those moments where I realized, like, oh, got it.
That's okay.
Yeah, got it. That's okay. I don't need to know how to play everybody else's songs unless I'm a cover band. and we're not a cover band.
Yeah.
We are original music. And so there's that whole side of things, right? Like you hear these things, even with music, you have to play covers. You have to be a cover band. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not true for everyone.
No. And especially like Van Gogh has become like a household name around the world. So now everybody loves Van Gogh, and a lot of artists try to emulate his technique. But why? There's been one in Van Gogh. You're not going to outdo the man.
Exactly.
Just be yourself. Just paint the way that what comes out of you. But I've got to be like Eddie Van Halen, or I've got to be like Van Gogh. And I wish more people would, embrace themselves instead of trying to be somebody else.
That's the thing. When you are looking at someone, right, and you notice that like, oh, this is successful, right? This is successful. Eddie Van Halen, we all know who that is. Holy shit. If I play like him, then I'll be like one of the greats. Van Gogh, oh shit, we know who that is, right? So if I do art like him, then that will be the comparison. And really it's that side of us that is chasing fame, chasing riches, chasing validation, most importantly, chasing validation, right? So if I could play music like this, then bam. If I could paint like this, then bam, right? Because you have a comparison that you could be like, well, Van Gogh did it. Van Gogh stuff is famous and my stuff is famous. And it's understanding that like there is nothing wrong with being inspired by something, right? So you like the sunflowers and you're like, holy shit, I love the color that he's using in the sunflowers. I want to do some sunflowers, but I want it to be my style. I don't want to, it's too much work to try and be like someone else. There's a big difference between doing that and saying, I'm going to paint sunflowers because apparently sunflowers are popular right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's where is the emotion behind it? At that point, then you're just doing something for the money. And it's really hard to discuss that, right? I mean, your documentary, you've got the starving artist concept and all that stuff. The irony is you have to embrace the concept that you are doing something for the passion of doing it, for the simplicity of doing it, and identify that you're not doing it for the money. You didn't start painting for the money. You didn't start music for the money, and then at some point money becomes involved and complicates everything. And here's the irony of that. The irony is that when you're not chasing money, you create things that are original. When you are chasing money, you're creating stuff that already exists.
That's true. So what do you have anything you want to plug, or are you have anything coming up, any shows or anything you want to tell people to go to on your website?
We will, I'm excited about, we're dropping a new song, probably end of August. So look for that. Our band is Better on the drums. Wherever you get your music from, that'll be dropping in August. I have embraced the 90s synth ballad epic vibes for this new song that we're releasing.
All right.
And we've got a lot of fun things on the horizon. Some of them local here for our new community.
Yeah, for anybody that's in this area, we're putting together an artist workshop.
And that's Oil City, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Oil City, Pennsylvania. Okay. We're putting together an artist workshop where we're going to cover, though it's basically going to be like Rafi and Klee videos, just live.
In a full day crash course format.
Crash course with food and fun.
Yeah.
So we're organizing stuff like that. At this point, we're still kind of getting our footing. We have ideas for we want to do some really big projects and shows and things like that. But at this point, we're getting our footing after having moved, setting up a recording studio, setting up.
Trying to regain our simplicity.
How long have you been in Oil City? You've been there a couple of years now, haven't you?
We are going on 2 years. This October will be 2 years.
Right.
For us.
That's excellent.
So yeah, so We moved in.
We were go with everything all the time for the first year, and then Rafi almost died.
Oh
and
no!
Then
Did you really?
I burned out.
He was so burned out that I legit thought like I'm gonna have to take him to the hospital because he's physically unwell and emotionally. Yeah. He just didn't want to stop, and he couldn't sleep. And homeownership will it does things to you.
It'll magnify.
It does.
It'll magnify everything else because we're running the stuff. So you feel like you can, and this is really important. I've talked about it in the videos. When you are going and going and going, you're doing this artist thing, right? So like today you're recording this podcast and you've got your artwork and you are filming a documentary and you're doing these different projects and you playing your music. You have a balance that works within that. When you don't set up a system for yourself and it's just go, 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 and along with that comes the extra, this is what happened to me. Along with that comes the extra insecurity of like, I need to pay my bills now because now I have a house and now I could lose this house. And, like all
the house needs things.
And it needs things. And all that stuff comes up immediately. Everything just becomes, you have to do this because there's money that comes. You have to do this and you have to do this. And it goes from, I want to work on art. I have a series that I want to create. To I have to work on this series and I have to release it by this time because we need to make this much money, or I have to post YouTube videos so we don't become irrelevant. We have to do this. We have to do that.
Yeah.
And then you always feel behind in every area of your life when you live that. Yeah. And then if you're somebody like Rafi, then you can never sleep. If you're somebody like me, then you sleep too much. That's my coping mechanism, right? Yeah. Whatever your coping mechanism is, then you feel real bad about that. And it's like this, I call it an Ouroboros of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it's just this cycle.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, I've done that too. Like I'm laying down to take a nap and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing this and this and this. And then I lay down at night. It's like, I could do this in the editing the film and I can't sleep. And it just drives me crazy. And plus we have a house
you just should on yourself. Like that's basically what you're doing. You're just shooting on yourself all the time. And then you never feel like you're caught up. And honestly, I could tell you right now from where I'm sitting, for sure, it's all in your head.
Oh yeah.
It's not real. It doesn't exist. You're not running behind. You are setting yourself up in a way where you always feel unaccomplished and you're running behind.
Mm-hmm.
But you could eliminate some of the things that you have on your list for the day, and you're still going to accomplish the same amount, if not more, because you tend to be a lot more productive when you're relaxed and you're not chasing a carrot.
Well, look what you guys have accomplished, though. I mean, I understand you're stressed, but my God, you've got books, songs, jewelry, painting. I mean, I've done many of the similar things, and people tell me, well, look at all that you've done. I'm like, well, it's not enough. Things aren't good enough. But you've got great books. Your website looks great. Your songs are well produced. You've got great personalities on air. I mean, your energy level is just beautiful and warm and friendly.
Oh, well, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what drew me to you first. You were just so fun to watch. So you've really come a long way. I don't know if that helps you at all, but
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe we can call each other and say, I'm worried I got to stop, because I lay in bed at night and just worry all the time because my wife is like the primary source of income. And being a guy, I'm thinking, boy, I'm a wimp. I'm not making any money. My wife's the breadwinner. And, it goes through your head. And my wife's like, I don't care what you do. I just want you to be happy. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, I'll just keep doing this. Because I was thinking of getting a job at the Cleveland Museum of Art. It's one of those people that walks around to tell people not to get too close to the paintings.
Right.
I'm like, do I really want to do that? 8 hours a day, I stand there looking at schmucks that are too close to the paintings and going, please don't get that close to the painting. I don't want to talk to people. I really am. People, strangers, I don't want to get involved with them.
Right.
And so I'm just saying, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's a real mental.
It is a mental thing because the fact of the matter is that, we decided to simplify, and we've been simplifying things for about 2 months, I want to say a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And just in that month and a half, not only have I been way more productive, more happy doing what I'm doing. I've got like 8 videos in queue for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
That's uncalled for. That doesn't happen.
Unheard of, you mean?
Unheard of, not uncalled for.
It's uncalled for.
That's uncalled for. I've got my next book almost completely fleshed out.
Wow.
We're releasing a song. I've got a new series. I'm going to reintroduce my Me and It series and, basically create, I don't know, a bunch of pieces in that series because I'm excited about releasing it.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've written a few new songs and we're working on stuff. And the difference is like, I'm having fun. And the truth is that it'll get like that. Like maybe I don't sell anything this week. We keep our balance sheet. It says it in our money book. We basically keep track of our money weekly. And so like every week I have a goal that I want to reach as far as money, and all the different incomes that come in and like, what I need to make this week in order for everything to be taken care of for the year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And we each have our own and we compete with one another.
Wow.
And sometimes, it's joking. It's like, yeah, like I blew you out of the water, but or she'll like whatever. But the fact of the matter, all the money goes in the same place, and
it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's a fun game.
But it's a fun game.
Yeah.
But there will be months where like I'm not selling anything. Like I'm like, what is going on? And I know that the more I worry about it, chances are the less things work out for me, because at that point you're just focused on the fact that things aren't working out. I've gotten really good at calling Klee my sugar mama during that time.
And it is because Rafi was also raised in a way that is, if you're the man, then you're supposed to be the breadwinner.
Man,
and
you're supposed to.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Garbage that comes along with like, if I'm going out to the markets or shows, or I'm bringing in the money at any given time, that, that there's weeds in that mental garden that need to be pulled out as far as what it means to be a man in a relationship.
Yeah.
And having that conversation is a great thing to be able to do. And even just being reminded, like, no, that's not your role. That's not why I keep you around. That's not what I chose you for.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay if like, if I've got all the money in my side of the ledger this month, whatever, like,
yeah, exactly.
It'll be what it is. And as long as we're like doing our thing and happy,
and
what does it matter?
It's interesting because like you got to stop and you look at that double standard, right? Because when I have a really, really good sales month and Klee maybe doesn't, and she's like, oh, I need to order stuff. I need to do something. At no point in my mind am I like, well,
little lady,
you're going to have to pay me back. Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so it's that idea that realizing that, yes, I got to get rid of that garbage because it doesn't work with this Sure, there's people out there that are like that. It doesn't work here. It doesn't belong here. It doesn't live here. And so if I am having an insecure moment where I'm like, I'm not supporting you in the way that a man should, or whatever it is, it's like, sometimes I'll say it and sometimes I'll say it in a really joking manner. Like I'll be like, I'm just not pulling my weight, and then Klee will be like, I don't need you to pull your weight.
It's okay, because you're real pretty. And we work well that way. And I hope that for everybody, to have a person, or if it's not your person that you found, just people in your life that aren't holding you to any unreasonable or outdated standards of being. And I think also people who understand what it means to be an artist, to be an entrepreneur in the artist way, to be working for yourself and to have to wear all these different hats and what exactly that looks like. And it is helpful to have people around you that understand that.
Yeah, understand what you're, or are willing to at least learn,
to hear you. Yeah.
To not have a preconceived notion of what it means to be an artist or what it means to run your own business, and then not be supportive in that way, to actually stop and listen to you because you're the one that's doing it and you're the one that's going through it.
Excellent. No, guys, you've been awesome. And I really appreciate you talking to me and being on my show. And I'm just going to wrap things up here. I've never know how to end these things or
We
start
never
them.
do either.
That's
so
fine.
I just like end it and it sounds like a thud, but what I'll do is I'll just end it and we'll talk for a little bit more. So I hung up on somebody on my first one and he emailed me. He's like, what happened? And I was like, oh, the show was over. And he's like, well, you could have told me. I guess I'm not Johnny Carson or whatever, but no, you guys are awesome. I'm so glad. I wrote to you like a year ago and I'm so thrilled when you wrote back to me. I had no idea you were so busy. And I was so excited to hear you want to be on the show because I really like your show and your work and all that I've seen so far and heard. So I appreciate you coming on today, and good luck to both of you.
Absolutely. It was great. It was great.
This was fun.
Hanging out. Yeah, this was fun.
I maybe you'll give me a reason to go to Oil City. Maybe I'll track down my family roots. I'll look up on ancestors.com and see who actually lived there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Oil City is pretty unusual and cool in architectural ways and natural ways.
Is it really?
We're loving it here.
Yeah, we love it here. It's like a small town, but it was a big boom town. So it's like a small, fancy.
It's got like the most Victorian mansions per capita of
seriously
anywhere. Yeah, it's a very unusual little place.
And there was an artist relocation thing, so there's a lot of artists in the area, and it's just there's a lot of creativity in the area, but it's not tapped in yet. You know, it's Oil City. Oil City is running through one of those issues that a lot of towns will run through in the beginning of the city believes that this is important, and the community and the Arts Council wants this. And so it's, you know, a lot of times it's infrastructure, which is all important stuff, but like the city tends to want to do things the way that it's been done. And you know, you got to change. You got to
little by little.
You got to evolve.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching my movie too, and I appreciate the support there because I can't seem to get people that aren't artists to watch it. And I had an artist friend watch it, and he goes, "Well, I didn't watch the whole thing because I couldn't relate to it." And I was like, you know, I still get hurt, kind of like a little bit when people say weird stuff like that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I guess he's just so successful and has so much money. I guess he's rolling in the dough from selling his paintings or something. So I appreciate your support.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, and if you, I think it was, like I said, I thought it was a really good documentary. If you want my feedback as far as why people that aren't artists might be watching it, it would be because it doesn't have the non-artist appeal.
Yeah. I think it needed to have some intrigue in it, like an armless man who learned to paint with his teeth or something like that.
And it's got to and marketing wise, when my brain goes into the corporate side of Rafi and I think of marketing, like how would I market this? You know, you're with the documentary, you're going through the same issue that I go through with a lot of the stuff that I do, that I put out there, which is I have this idea and then I put this thing together. And then when marketing hack comes on, it's like, well, how are you going to market this? And I'm like, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm just going to be real excited about it.
I'm going to be real excited about it and hope for the best. But like it, you know, there's always that it's got a great story. I love your perspective in it. But I think for like non-artist people, they would lose sight of what this is about.
Yeah.
You know, I would love it. And seriously, I loved your style. I loved your recording. I loved your storytelling. I loved your editing. So yeah, if you have any future documentaries that you want to do, I would be game to.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll do one about you guys. Have you ever done a documentary?
We
We had Vivid
have,
Bridge come out and do a mini doc on us.
I mean, you're fascinating. Your story's fascinating. I mean, I hate to be like fanatical about you, but you have such a nice energy, and it's so rare to find artists that aren't snobs, that aren't assholes.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot. I mean, a lot of people are just like, oh, well, maybe I'll give you a call sometime, work on a film with you. If I could squeeze you into my busy creative schedule.
Right.
And you're so busy. I just think it's amazing that you're so friendly. But yeah.
Well, I mean, usually, and I know that we're busy, but it's usually busy people are the ones that get things done.
Yeah, that's true. And also we love people, and it hurts me a little when I hear artists say that they don't love people or even that they hate people, because art and people are like peas and carrots, for lack of
it's
a
like
better.
peanut butter and jelly.
If you want to share your art, you're going to be sharing it with humans. So you got to find a way to love humans. And my truth was, and I won't go on a long-winded tangent, but I used to be one of those humans that was like, oh, I don't like people and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is that I was just really afraid of people.
Yeah.
And the more I got used to the idea of being around people and actually sharing what I think with people, and then the more that you can love and appreciate people, and sure, there's assholes in the world and everyone's not for everyone, right? But in general, human connection is that's the thing we're all trying to get anyway, with everything we do.
That's true.
And so, any opportunity to work with a human that we resonate with, that we connect with,
most definitely.
And that's kind of our philosophy. Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah, because it would be fun. You know what I mean? Like that would be it would be a fun project to be a part of. And, for a documentary, for something like that, the only part that I'd be a little bit sad of, and I would have to look, is that my external hard drive crashed.
Oh no.
With hours and hours of footage of our travels.
We lost.
When we started
no. And it's completely gone.
Yeah. 2 hard drives bit it on us in the same week. And it was heartbreaking.
Oh no.
It was.
Well, I tell you what, I'm just finishing my 3rd documentary, and maybe I can have you or hire you to help me market it. And there's a guy that moved to Cleveland from Anchorage, Alaska. He's an artist and a businessman. He bought one of the Andrew Carnegie library branches.
Oh, cool.
And he turned it into an art museum. And if you guys ever want to come into town, I'll glad to take you over there and show you his.
That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah, it'd be awesome to have you see it. He's a really awesome guy. And I see the film and I'm like, I'm doing a rough edit of the final right now. And I'm like, who's going to want to see this? And am I telling the story right? And, my wife sees it over and over and over again. What do you think of this scene? And so maybe if I had a third party to look at it and give me our marketing ideas, because I think it's a really good story.
Yeah. I think that sounds like an amazing story. It sounds fun.
Yeah. And he's really positive. He's been through some tragic things, and I'm hoping it's a more positive documentary. There's no real drama in it. It's a positive, straightforward film about, saying yes to things in life.
That's good.
And I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I don't want to. There's so many negative documentaries out there.
Yeah. People need more stuff that makes them feel good right now more than ever.
There's no reason. Listen, any documentary that you do, you're going to have your inciting incident, right?
Yeah.
This is the thing that happened. It was not that great. We're going to stay here for maybe about 5 minutes, but let's talk about how, yes, this thing happened and it wasn't great, but look at how it led to
these amazing things here.
All of this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because he had a business in Anchorage that he lost because of COVID, and he'd been there for 30 years, but COVID, a huge event programming business, went completely out of business, and he was done, and he had connections here, so he moved here. But I wish I had met you before I started this because of your ideas. Right? I think that's what I'm trying to do. But it's a whole nother story. I don't want to keep you guys all day. But
okay.
But
well,
yeah,
we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be awesome. And if you do decide to take a trip out here, just let us know.
Yeah, Cleveland's not super far from us. It's like 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, is it that close? It's just what are you, near Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we're
north
2 hours north of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then we're like 2 hours east of Cleveland.
Yep.
I don't want to impose. I mean, I would love to come out there and just see Oil City just for the historical purposes of my family and stuff.
Let us know, if you've got a kind of time frame in your mind, or let us know in the near future or far future, whatever. Yeah.
Excellent. That'd be excellent. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And I'm gonna end this here.
Okay.
I'll put in some outro. I was telling Rafi I created an intro that I'll cut in later.
Okay.
But thanks so much for being here today.
Will you also send me an email, share the link with me of where you're going to post this so that I could let people know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you that. Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Okay.
I'll have it on YouTube, and I'll have the audio on all the podcast platforms. My host is Buzzsprout, and they send it out to Apple and Amazon. And I wish I got to show more of your artwork, but it'll be as a podcast, and it'll be also on YouTube, on my 2 YouTube channels.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm sorry if you can hear my stomach in your ear.
That's okay. I've been burping in your ear, so burping and coughing. So.
Well, this was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
Thanks so
much.
Great
meeting you in person.
Nice you guys too. Thanks so much.
All right.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.